And speaking of this, I mean, the idea of the Pokestop is absolutely brilliant because a lot of the places that they're using are like landmarks and stuff. So you're finding out, information about the places that that you're in and may not necessarily have known about.
But the only exception to this is at a Assiniboine Park here in Winnipeg. There's one entrance where you go into, and it shows this little I don't know if it's a stone or a marker that says Assiniboine Park. But when you actually look up top, when it tells you what it says Assiniboine Park. So there are some aspects of this game where they really didn't put a whole lot of thought into.
I think they're going off and they kind of have taken pre-existing software and they're using it for this. I mean, it's the only explanation.
They're actually using the software from their other game, which is called Ingress, and they've adapted it into to make it for Pokemon Go.
So, I mean, yeah, exactly. So they're using other software. So, and I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is a game that is now in, Canada, the United States. It's in several European countries. It's in Australia. It's in Japan. And probably more countries than I know.
Banned in China.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me.
China doesn't like exercise.
I think they don't like Pokemon because it's Japanese.
There's also that theory. And before we go to our quick commercial break, because this has been like a really, really big talk fest, which is awesome. Walking releases endorphins releases happiness, and it makes the world a better place.
Absolutely. I can't come up with anything better than that. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, so we're going to go to a quick music break. We're going to come back. We'll talk about the Gimli Icelandic Festival and the Joker new twist. So enjoy some music, and we'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to the Captain Fizz and Mask Guy show. If you're tuning into the first half of the show, and I really hope you were, because if you weren't, go back, listen to it all. It's been a great first half. So we were talking about Pokemon Go. We're going to switch up a little bit. I think we're going to start talking a little bit more about this new DC twist involving not one, not two, but three different Jokers.
Yeah, this is actually pretty interesting. I'm just pulling up some of the information here. So what happened is that in Justice League issue number 50, we go off and see that Batman has went off and he gains possession of the Mobius chair, and it's an unlimited database of knowledge, quote unquote. And so he
basically a really smart chair.
A really smart chair. And he goes off and he puts the question to us is, what is the Joker's real name? And at the time of this issue, we don't get, the answer. All we hear is Batman say something along the lines of, this is impossible. It's later on where he's talking to the Green Lantern. And, Lantern asks him about it. And he goes off and confesses that the Mobius chair did not give him the name of the Joker, but revealed there is in fact three Jokers. And we see in a later issue where Batman is sitting in the Batcave looking at pictures of these three Jokers who they clearly do not look alike. I mean, they all have certain aspects of the Joker, but I mean, they each look unique. And one Joker, hearing the over the radio that one Joker's been caught. But there's another Joker elsewhere who's going off and causing a muck. And so, I mean, this is definitely... There's been some, speculation over the years as whether the Joker might be immortal. because I mean, to have lived through the things that he's lived through, you have to have some sort of superpowers. But I mean, when you look at it, the Joker, all he really seems like is a brilliant psychopath.
See, I'm going to go back to I think a really brilliant quote from Gotham is when they were talking about Jerome, whether or not he was the Joker. And this isn't in the show, this was their interviews afterwards. They pretty much said it perfect, and I think it goes in with what they're revealed as of today, right? Is that there is no one Joker. Joker is basically like a sickness. And I think that's pretty much what this is implying is the fact of, maybe it's an alternate reality, split times, things like that, right? And somehow they end up in the same, spot.
I was thinking along the same lines when I read this. I immediately thought back to Gotham and how when Jerome dies midway through season 1 or season 2, pardon me, that we see several people going up and showing different signs of the Joker personality. That's what was kind of like, okay, so maybe there's they kind of tying these things together, or maybe they got Gotham got the idea from someone or DC said, hey, let's do look at what Gotham's done. This actually makes sense.
Yeah, and at the same point, you got a question, and I have to put out this question for obvious reason. If there are 3 different Jokers, are there 3 different Harleys?
You wish. But, I mean, the interesting thing is, I mean, I've seen past videos on YouTube. I encourage you to go off and go check out Comics Misconception. Just look it up on YouTube, and I go off and usually on there, usually on Saturdays and Sundays with my son when he actually tolerates listening to something slightly more educational than the Wiggles
or our voices.
But and so I mean, there's different aspects here where they talk about that, but then there was one video I saw where they actually you see characters, in the DC timeline, who go off and look a hell of a lot like the Joker. And so there's talk has he had, his own version of the Lazarus Pit where he's been able to regenerate? Has he gone hit with some sort of meteor rays or some dust from a meteor that inhaled that has allowed him to live, forever? I mean, there's like different, speculations. And now this pops up.
And there's also, if you look at Marvel, and I know Marvel and DC are, completely different entities, but in the Marvels they have the Inhumans. And I believe in DC they have the Metahumans. Now, wouldn't it be entertaining, in some form of way, if Joker isn't just a human, he is a metahuman? He is, and maybe someone of, okay, you kill him off, and he can rejuvenate as a whole different being, different personality, different memories, and this is why he's always forgetting different little things along
as
the way.
He goes off and and I'm not going to get the quote exactly right, but from the Killing Joke, he goes off and no, I don't think it's the Killing. No, it is the Killing Joke. Sorry, guys. He goes off and he says that he prefers his past to be multiple choice because he goes off and he says, sometimes I remember this way, sometimes I remember that way. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice or something along those lines.
Yeah, and that's pretty actually accurate to what he was saying. And I think everything they've done over the the last few years, the different personalities in the movies, the different actors, things like it has all led up to this exact point where they reveal that there's more than one. Now,
it would definitely explain why. I mean, if you go up and you look at the different Jokers that we've had, pardon me, both in the cartoons and as the movies, I mean, if you look at, none of the actors who played him on TV have played the character exactly the same. Jack Nicholson has played him one way, the late Heath Ledger's played him another way, Jared Leto has went off and has played him a completely different way.
And those are the 3 iconic Jokers to remember. And if you actually look at the picture And I encourage you to Google this, look it up, find these pictures and look at them. If you look at the three pictures, they are identical in little bits and pieces to these three iconic Jokers.
There's some similarities. You actually, on your personal Facebook, posted a picture that actually shows the three of them standing together, where Jack Nicholson's Joker is leaning on Heath Ledger's and Jared Leto is standing to their far right.
Yeah, it's the evolution of the Joker, and I believe, our original theory of that, Jared Leto's Joker was actually Jason Todd. I don't honestly believe that at this point.
No, well, you know what? The director of that movie has completely shot down that theory. There's a part of the reason why they would shoot down that theory, because there is still talk that Ben Affleck and DC wants to make a Batman standalone movie based off Death in the Family, where Jason Todd is murdered by the Joker.
Yes.
And so they want to go on. So if they went off and revealed that this version of the Joker is in fact Jason Todd, that goes off. That ruins the whole idea that they want to do.
Well, yeah, because then you're revealing it beforehand, and and it's been done before. This kind of concept of revealing them, or so not so much revealing, but having them showcase without saying who they are before they actually reveal the backstory of how they became. Now, I'm very curious, over the next little while to see what the backstory of the Joker is, to really see any familiar names.
It'll be kind of interesting to find that out. I'm kind of getting the impression in the latest trailer for Suicide Squad that the Joker might be one of the big villains in it, because there's a scene where the members of the squad are in a warehouse or something, and all of a sudden you hear that iconic laugh.
Yeah, well,
and Harley goes off and pretty much says, "Oh crap."
I pretty much predicted this, that in one way or another that Jared Leto's Joker would in fact be
I don't think
the villain.
I don't know if he necessarily is the villain, but he definitely is going to be one of the villains.
See, and what I thought it originally was, and of course these are just the trailers that they've released. We don't actually know the full story, of course. We won't know for another 8 or 7 days, I believe it is.
I think it's coming out this Friday.
It's coming out on August 11th.
Okay, so that's not so bad then.
Yeah, so, we got a few more days, so we got about 9 days until Suicide Squad is going to be revealed, which is awesome. I'm pretty much counting down the days, obviously.
So I'm hoping that the Suicide Squad is going to make up for Justice League. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't as good as it should have been.
The trailers look unbelievable. And if you look really through the past, Batman v Superman, all that, the trailers were good, but they just weren't quite at that excellent point.
There was something missing.
Yeah, and if you look at the Suicide Squad trailers and the numerous trailers that they've released, including the pictures and all the stuff along the way, it's just above excellent. It is extraordinary what they've been able to do.
I think it's going to be... Well, it kind of holds itself differently than Batman v Superman did. And interestingly enough, from what I've read, we're going to see definitely a different aspect of Batman in this movie. Batman will be in this, but we're going to kind of get to see Batman from the point of view of his villains, where, part of the reason why Bruce Wayne chose a bat was to go off and to put fear into his enemies. And so we are going to go off and see Batman terrorizing the people who terrorize Gotham.
Yeah, and what I really like about, Suicide Squad, and yet also kind of dislike about Suicide Squad, is a lot of these characters, with the exception of Joker, are characters that really haven't been seen in the whole DC, cinematic universe up until now. Like, Crocodile, and all these ones. Like, you really don't see them in an epic way they should have been.
This is going to be pretty much the movie debut of almost all of these characters.
And I think that's disappointing of how great these villains are. They should have been showcased long before.
Well, I think part of the reason why we haven't seen a lot of these villains showcased before is because when people go off and have made, the Batman movies in the past, they wanted the more iconic villains.